Hello and welcome to the Sacred Rose Temple for this week's energy report. I am reporting this knowing that is going to be my last with you all before we come into the new year. And it is time for us all to think about taking that sacred pause around this really special time of year. Always seems the same way, doesn't it? When this is kind of a sacred time and the world begins to need pause because we're coming to the solstice. Things seem to speed up. Have you noticed? That's because we're so out of sync with this time of year. And this week is really closing the gate of the year. It carries the unmistakable feeling of ending, sacred completion. We are coming slowly into the day of the solstice comes down and the light begins to return, which will seal, simplify, and consecrate what you have lived so far within this part of the cycle. It's a threshold week, it's a liminal space, and Hecate still walks with us in this space. The astrologically are things like Mars in Capricorn, which brings discipline, grounded masculine energy into the field. And for the feminine, this is really super important about giving us some structure, allowing us to feel just that burst of energy in the morning that's going to get us out of bed and take us through a routine, structure, embodiment, and steady completion rather than all the emotional processing, which just seems to have been taken up our time and has been allowing such kind of spaciousness and air. Now it's really about the containment. It's about how we bring in the earth energy, and it brings us to ask ourselves, what is ready to be stabilized? What do I now need to make in real form? And we know we've been getting all the lessons, we've been learning all about ourselves. We stand here at this point not really recognizing who we are compared to how we looked maybe 12 months ago. And what this is really asking you to do now is to ask you, are you putting in place the things it's asking you to? I can share with clients the same information over and over and over again, and they simply might not ever put those pieces into action, which keeps them in the same loops. And that's what this time is showing us this week. If we think that the sun is also squaring Saturn, that creates a very sober, clarifying pressure. That's like saying, yes, make the lists. Yes, start to use your structure or your backup. Start to make those changes that have been summoning you forward. It's an archetypal moment of really reckoning where time feels real. So the psyche in us is really feeling responsibility, consequence of our behaviors in the past, and the need for our maturity. Really feel that significant with my field of work and working with people in the realms of the inner child. And one of the biggest concepts that lives with us is these undeveloped parts of our psyche that have been affected in childhood, and not nobody escapes that. We all have things from childhood that need integrating, healing. There's nobody been brought up in the Crystal Palace. Things that have happened to us in our childhood, even the effects of certain types of parenting, have had an imprint on us. And we know that. So those of us that are awake to that and have been doing the work with that know that this is calling in that part of the inner child that may have kept us behind or in certain patterns to finally mature. And for women doing this work, I feel it really manifests as an inner knowing that we cannot carry everything forward, that we can't continue to behave in certain ways. I definitely know, having spent so many years in the animus, that the anima in me had a specific role, but I can't go forward in the way that I used to go. So, for example, holding loads of retreats, which I always used to do in my masculine energy, is now being asked to come through in a feminine form. And it means collaboration and working in a structure that's created for me instead of creating the structure. So I'm trying to address the way I was behaving before in a new way as I come through this square that insists on prioritizing, looking at your boundaries and honoring your limits. So that's a big one for me. So I'm really appreciative of Sun squaring Saturn, really just bring that into more focus. We've also got the Sun squaring Neptune, and this softens, but also exhausts the nervous system. So we might feel tired, foggy, confused, emotionally sensitive. These are signs of our body. The aspect of this square really helps us dissolve illusion, fantasy, over identification with spiritual bypassing, with spiritual ideas, and what remains from this is the truth. Like, so we can be as spiritually bypassing as we want and saying, oh, it's everybody else's fault, or I'm only high vibes, or I know my shadow, or I didn't have a bad childhood. You can bypass that to a point, and eventually it will reveal the truth in how your life looks and feels. This is a week where rest is needed. It's really needed to embody wisdom. So in this fast pace that seems to happen in this world that's disconnected from the true meaning of this time of year, the Alban and the return of the light, we get faster when indeed we just need to take it slow and pace ourselves, allow the light wisdom to come in. We're seeing such a shift with all of this if we can take the time. And Neptune, which is direct in Pisces, and Saturn is also in Pisces, it really marks a profound collective shift. The age of spiritually bypassing is going to be over. It really is. I mean, I'm even, still shocked to see people talking about shadow and in a way that is a victim. It's other people, that's their shadow. I mean, that's not shadow work. Shadow work's always about you. and generally this deepening into shadow work has been done through a psychological concept and the theory and the pedagogy, but the practice and doing that in a really therapeutic model is going to be much more like powerful for you than just using the words. And I do see it used a lot, and I see it used very incorrectly as well. So really just making sure that, this spiritual bypassing, which keeps us thinking that it's everybody else's fault, that allows us to go into our own explanations and denial and, all of those feelings that we get are going to be over, like eventually, hurrah. But in this age of the spiritual bypassing and the projection that's been really, I see people complaining, oh, I'm getting lots of attacks, for example, and they have no understanding that energy is coming in because of something within their psyche that is in shadow that needs to be healed and solved. And that makes us really do the self work. When we admit that, we stop projecting it on others. We try to take a good look at ourselves, and we stop looking for saviors. There is no one coming to save us. We are saving ourselves by changing our behaviors, by doing the healing, by trying to become better people, to realizing that the world is screwed up, we're part of the scope, and what can we do about that? So I think the false life, it feels with this direction is beginning to really end. Saturn in Pisces really asks the feminine to embody spirituality, not idealize it. Oh, we've all been there, haven't we? Where we all know it all from the text, and we know about the womb and the cycle, but we're not really logging our cycles, or we're not really sitting and connecting to the womb, or we ritual if it's done on an online ceremony, but we don't really hold a ritual at home. It's about embodying it, and I've said this for years. It really truly is about living it, breathing it, walking it, doing it. If it's not part of your everyday life, you're separating spirituality from the mundane so that you can escape. But spirituality embodied for the feminine means it's part of her life. She's ritualistic in the morning. She cleans and cleanses. She really takes care of her spiritual energy. She's moving energy. She's doing the rituals. She's walking and talking. She's healing and all of those things. So how do you embody it? That is where you need to ask yourself, where you need to embody your spirituality, where you're still not living and breathing it as part of your life, not a separate part. So Neptune will dissolve illusions gently, but unmistakably. And what has been imagined but not lived won't survive this passage. It just won't. So all the illusions, I love that, what has been imagined but not lived will be dissolved. I kind of really like that. It's, as a Taurian, as an earth-based person, embodiment is really, really, really important to me. And I can feel the energies around air and water sometimes that's really not embodied and flighty and fanciful and illusionary rather than steeped in lived embodiment. So, it's applicable to me as well. Like, where am I? Where am I still not embodying my spirituality? In what areas could I work with that? But yeah, we remain in deep Scorpio energy. Season of this is, even as the calendar moves and it keeps working on us, we're trying to be intimate and honest with ourselves at the moment. So we must really sit with that, not, try to escape it because we're in a busy season, but trying to hold the energy in this feeling of being in the winter, in the depth of the Winter Queen, in the Hecate. It's this liminal space is super important for us and continues to be. And, before Christmas was commercialized, it was the return of the light after the descent. The tree was put up as a worship, as a druidic, as I follow the path of the earth worship process. It was about putting the tree up. It was a gestation. It was an honoring. It was an offering. It was a sacred process. It wasn't just about putting red balls and glitter up and decorating the house. It was womb time, cave time, listening time. The feminine not give birth at the darkest point. She rests, she nourishes, she protects the spark until it's ready. So we're not meant to push through. We're holding that quiet vigil so that we can allow the divine light that comes in. And the ancient tradition that I follow way before Christian, Christian is part of my lineage. I was brought up in a Christian family. But before that, it was this ancient earth-based worship, the tree and the Albanatha, the coming in of light. It's called the Christ light because it's the child light. It's the King Arthur light. Before the story of King Arthur, it would have been the sun god. The story has transformed through life and through man's interpretation and wanting to write things down. But the energy is the same. The myth is the same regardless. So we come to a point in the sky, and that's why I love the stars, because the stars are mapped out. It doesn't matter whether you call it Christianity or earth-based worship or what other labels we label our religions, but truly it's a time that the planets have such a energetic pull on us, and that governs the way the sun, the stars, the planets move around us. And as this particular degree on the 21st of December comes, that light begins to return and we can really begin to feel it. So before then, we've still got a little time. You've got to think about these things, what must be completed, released, or laid down before this year can truly close in your psyche and body. We aren't at the end of the year in my earth-based worship practice. We are entering just the darkness. The beginning of the year was Samhain, it was Halloween for me, but this is the Roman calendar that the majority of the energy of the world lives in, and this is seen as the end. For me, it's the end of a cycle. So I will still look at the end of this cycle, what needs to be laid down in my psyche and my body. And then I'll be thinking about, where am I being asked to bring structure into my life? Where is that going to come in? Where boundaries are coming in, where I need more maturity. My spiritual life needs to be embodied more. And then thinking about what illusions are dissolving, what has really shown itself to you this year about yourself, about the way you relate or the way you work or your unworthiness or what you've put up with or what you can't do anymore. What is that? That is definitely the reflection of Alban Arthan, is that we begin to think in this time of the year, oh gosh, like in this dark space, what's been dark? What's not been great? Because this is a sacred, a sacred pause, a feeling of finishing. It's a feeling of finishing a cycle. And we need to rest enough to hear what is being born. We don't force this threshold. We rather wait for the door to be open and we allow all of this in. I will try to connect with you over Christmas at some point, but I will be taking that liminal space, that pause, that time to be with myself and my family and be ritualistic and ceremonially with friends and enjoying the time. That's what this time is about. The festive, the ritual of celebration and coming together, sharing food, gifting each other. Underneath the commercial, it's always been about the community, about our loved ones, about celebrating, coming out of the dark, coming out of our shadow, coming out of our blindness and illusions, and stepping into a new pinprick of light that's going to bring us forward and bring us into more embodied spiritual process through our life. So that's exactly how I will be working with it. I also really encourage you to join me on the 12 Nights of Yule. It is a deep dive into 12 concepts around Yule. They are concepts that are about the psyche, the psycho-spiritual, they're deeply spiritual and sacred. You will create a nature altar over 12 days. You are asked to contemplate on certain feelings and words and emotions. I have set psycho-spiritual questions, a little practice every day to do. It's not cumbersome. This time of year is busy enough. And we are in our portal on my website where we are going to come together and talk about these reflections and how each one lands. And then I've just added a new PDF today, which is a summary reflection sheet, which will help you consolidate, embody the 12 days and what they're really, really about. So I will post under this podcast the link to purchase that, and really, really excited about the amount of people that have signed up, and the energy is going to be amazing. Together, as we do that, we are creating an energy of sacredness and sacred embodied spirituality. So I will be in touch for the new year, or the Roman New Year, we should say, begins. And I really just wish you all such a blessed, sacred time. Remember, in the madness of it all, that underneath is sacredness, stillness, seeking love, really trying to finalize things that we don't want to move forward, and how we see that there is great light, and that great light asks certain sacrifices of us. How will you go forward into that? Beautiful, beautiful blessings at this special time, and really a great big thank you from my heart for listening into these podcasts. I love the messages that you share underneath, the ones you send me privately. I really, really appreciate it. And as the new year comes in, I will be offering this in a different format. I'm going to go live. I realize I've been told many times I don't show my face enough. And so I'm going to go live in my Facebook group, the Sacred Rose Temple, and I'll be going live from there and then sharing it onto YouTube later. But for now, absolute oodles of love and blessings. Take care.